If you'd told me last year I'd end up fighting a pearl-wearing HOA president over my own land, I would have laughed and said, buddy, you watch too much TV. But life's funny like that. One day you're dreaming about peace and freedom. Next thing you know, you're dodging lawsuits and learning just how far people will go to draw a line in the dirt. The day the letter came about my granddad's ranch, I didn't feel joy exactly. It was more like someone handed me a map to a place I'd been longing for and dreading all at once. That land, it wasn't just dirt and fences. It was every stubborn thing my grandfather ever taught me rolled up into one open sky. For him, it was pride legacy proof you could live on your own terms if you worked for it. For me, it was a chance to walk away from the cubicle life, the endless rush of the city, the way the streets all seemed to hum with anxiety and breathe. So I packed up what I owned, said goodbye to the old world, and started over. My first days were just me, the wind, and a whole lot of animals who couldn't care less about my big plans. There were horses, goats with personalities bigger than the barn chickens led by the loudest rooster you've ever heard, and a couple pigs who made mud look like paradise. Every morning started before dawn, hauling feed, brushing the horses, learning how the fence liked to fall apart whenever my back was turned. But you know there's a rhythm to ranch life. By sundown I'd sit on the porch, hands aching in the best way, coffee in my mug, watching the sky blush purple behind the hills. And just past those hills I could see the edge of Maplewood Heights, rows of houses lined up like teeth, every lawn so green it looked fake. Not a weed in sight, all kept in line by that great American invention, the HOA. Now I'd heard stories about homeowner associations. Little did I know one day they'd come knocking on my gate, literally. One afternoon I'm elbows deep in hay bales when this shiny black SUV glides up. Out steps a woman who looks like she belongs in a magazine ad for success. Blazer-pressed pearls gleaming, she could cut glass with her smile. She introduces herself, Judith, president of the HOA. She starts out friendly enough, welcoming me to the area, talking about community standards, giving me the sort of look you save for an overgrown weed. I told her plain as day, ma'am, my ranch isn't under your HOA. Her smile just got tighter, like she'd heard that before. Of course, but we're all neighbors, aren't we? It's important to keep things looking their best. The whole thing felt less like a greeting and more like a warning. A couple weeks later, she's back, this time with a clipboard. She says she's reviewing property lines, wants to take a quick look around. Now, I'm no fool, but she didn't strike me as the type who takes no for an answer. So I let her in. Figure I'll keep an eye on her and make sure she doesn't accidentally plant an HOA sign in my front yard. She struts around snapping photos, her white suit getting dusty. I'm watching from the kitchen window, half amused, until she vanishes. Next thing I hear is a scream. Turns out she'd walked herself right into my compost pit. Up to her waist in well-ranch reality. Suit ruined. Hair everywhere. She's flailing, yelling for help, and all I can do is try not to laugh as I pull her out with a piece of rebar. She storms off, trailing more mud than a tractor after a rainstorm. Most folks would have stayed away after that, right? Not Judith. Nope. About a week later, a courier shows up at my door with legal papers. She's suing me for emotional distress, physical injury, the works. Says my property was unsafe, that I owe her for every scrap of her ruined reputation. My lawyer, Clara, she's the kind of sharp that makes you glad she's on your side, just shakes her head and asks if I've got proof. Lucky for me, I'd set up cameras to keep an eye on the horses. We watched the footage, Judith strutting in, taking pictures, stepping straight into the compost pit all by herself, and me helping her out. Not quite the story she'd hoped to sell. In court, her lawyer blames me for everything short of the weather. But when Clara rolls that tape, the whole room gets real quiet, then you hear snickers. Judge throws out the case on the spot. And just like that, Compost Queen becomes Judith's new nickname in town. Not exactly the legacy she wanted, but she's nothing if not stubborn. Not a week passes before I find a couple contractors poking around my fence saying the HOA sent them to tear it down. Says here you're on their land, they claim. I look them in the eye and tell them that fence has stood longer than Maplewood Heights has existed. Touch it and you'll regret it. They hightail it out of there, mumbling something about double-checking with the HOA. I call Clara again. She says we'll bring in a surveyor, get the facts on paper. Frank shows up, old guy, all business. Measures every inch, walks the boundaries like he's looking for buried treasure. By the end of the day, he hands me the map and says, your fence is fine. But guess what? Their parking lot and storage shed are on your land. Now that's the kind of plot twist they don't teach in city council meetings. This time we take them to court. The whole county seems to show up for the hearing. Clara lays out the survey, the footage, every shred of proof. The HOA's lawyer tries to spin it, but you can see it in the judge's eyes. He's had enough. The ruling is swift. HOA has to move their stuff, pay damages, and my favorite part, officially recognize my boundaries. Judith. She quits, disappears. The rest of the board suddenly want to make peace. They send Tom, the new president, to shake my hand and thank me for standing up. Turns out most of them hated the drama just as much as I did. Instead of pushing for every penny, I let them keep their parking lot for a while under my rules. Sometimes you win by showing you're not out for blood, just respect. The ranch settles back into its old rhythm. Even a few Maplewood Heights folks start stopping by. One brings pie, another offers to help mend the barn roof. Turns out most people just want quiet, same as me. It's funny standing out on my porch watching the sunset light up those cookie-cutter houses. I see now it's not the land or the fences that divide people. It's pride, power, fear of losing control. But if you stand up for yourself without losing your head, even the wildest battles can end in something like peace. Looking back, I realize nobody hands you justice. You have to dig for it, fight for it, sometimes even get a little muddy. And if you're lucky, you come out with your land, your pride, and maybe even a new neighbor or two. Makes me wonder, if you were in my boots, how far would you go to protect what's yours? Ever tangled with folks who crossed the line just because they thought they could? Drop your story below. Let's hear where you draw the line between right, wrong, and just plain stubborn. Because sometimes the only way to set things right is to grab your rebar, take a stand, and hope karma's paying attention.